I lied to him. I looked straight into the eyes of a man who had lost everything. And I told him I was someone I wasn't. I knew it was wrong. I knew I was stepping into a life that didn't belong to me. But when he held my hand and said, "You look just like my daughter," I didn't correct him. I let him believe it. And that lie, it changed everything. Because I wasn't his daughter. But by the time the truth came out, it was already too late. 3 weeks earlier, on a cold morning in Chicago, Clara Hayes sat alone on a broken wooden bench outside a small bus station. Her coat was thin, her shoes had holes, and her hands shook as she held a small paper cup of coffee that had already gone cold. People walked past her like she didn't exist. Some looked at her and turned away quickly. Others didn't even notice her at all. Clara was used to that. At 72 years old, she had learned how invisible a person could become. She leaned back slowly, her bones aching, and closed her eyes for a moment. The wind blew harder, pushing against her like it wanted her to leave. "I'm tired," she whispered to herself. Not just tired from the cold. Not just tired from hunger, but tired from life. Clara used to have a home, family, a reason to wake up every day. But that was a long time ago. Her husband, Daniel, had passed away 15 years earlier. A quiet man with kind eyes. He used to hold her hand every night before they slept. After he was gone, things slowly fell apart. Bills piled up. Her only daughter, Lila, moved away and stopped calling. At first, Clara thought maybe Lila was just busy. Maybe life had gotten hard. But weeks turned into months, and months turned into years. No calls, no letters, nothing. Clara didn't even know if her daughter was still alive. The last time she saw Lila, they had argued. It was a small argument at first. About money, about choices, about things that didn't seem so important back then. But words were said. Hurtful words. Words that couldn't be taken back. And Lila walked out the door, never to return. Clara had replayed that moment in her head 1,000 times. If I had just stayed quiet. If I had just hugged her. If I had just said sorry. But it was too late for if. Now all Clara had left were memories and regret. A loud car horn snapped her back to the present. She opened her eyes slowly. A long black car had just pulled up in front of the bus station. It was the kind of car you only saw in movies. Shiny, perfect, expensive. People nearby started whispering. Who is that? Some rich guy, probably. Clara didn't pay much attention at first. Rich people didn't notice people like her. But then the car door opened, and everything changed. A tall man stepped out. He wore a dark suit, perfectly fitted. His shoes were clean, his hair neat, his face serious. But there was something else about him. Something heavy, like he was carrying pain no one else could see. His name was Ethan Cole, one of the richest men in the city. But Clara didn't know that yet. All she saw was a man who looked lost. Ethan stood still for a moment, looking around like he wasn't sure where he was supposed to go. Then his eyes landed on Clara, and he froze. Clara felt it immediately, that feeling when someone is staring at you. She shifted uncomfortably and looked down at her hands. Please don't come over here, she thought. Please. But he did. Slowly, step by step, Ethan walked toward her. Each step felt louder than the last. People nearby stopped talking. The air felt different. Clara's heart started beating faster. What does he want? She wondered. Ethan stopped right in front of her. For a moment, he didn't say anything. He just looked at her. Really looked at her. Like he was trying to see something, or someone, inside her. Clara finally looked up. Their eyes met. And in that moment, something strange happened. Ethan's expression changed. His serious face softened. His eyes widened slightly. And then, they filled with tears. Clara blinked, confused. Sir? She said quietly. Ethan took a small step closer. His voice, when he spoke, was soft, almost broken. You! He paused, like he was struggling to find the right words. Then he said it. You look just like my daughter. Clara's breath caught. What? Ethan swallowed hard. My daughter, he repeated. She had your eyes. The same smile. His voice cracked. Clara didn't know what to say. She had never seen this man before. But the way he looked at her, it wasn't normal. It wasn't polite curiosity. It was something deeper, something painful. I'm sorry, Clara said gently. I think you have the wrong person. But Ethan shook his head slowly. No, he said. No, I don't. He sat down beside her on the bench without asking. A billionaire, sitting next to a homeless old woman. People around them stared. Some even pulled out their phones. But Ethan didn't care. He kept looking at Clara, like she was the only thing that mattered in the world. What's your name? He asked. Clara hesitated. Something inside her felt uneasy, but another part of her felt something else. Warmth, tension, something she hadn't felt in a long time. Clara, she said finally. Clara Hayes. Ethan nodded slowly. Clara, he repeated, like he was testing the name. Then he looked down at his hands. My daughter's name was Ava, he said quietly. Clara's heart tightened. Was? Ethan closed his eyes. She's gone, he said. The words hung in the air, heavy, painful. Clara didn't ask what happened. She didn't need to. She could see it in his face. The kind of pain that never really leaves. I'm sorry, Clara said softly. Ethan nodded, but didn't respond. For a moment they just sat there in silence. Two strangers, two broken lives. Then Ethan did something unexpected. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small photograph. His hands shook slightly as he held it out to Clara. Look, he said. Clara took the photo carefully. Her eyes widened. The girl in the picture, she looked almost exactly like Clara when she was younger. Same eyes, same smile, same gentle face. Clara felt a strange chill run down her spine. It's a very similar, she admitted. Ethan let out a shaky breath. When I saw you, he said, it felt like she was still here. Clara didn't know what to say. Her chest felt tight, because for the first time in years, someone was looking at her like she mattered. Not as a burden, not as someone to ignore, but as someone important. Ethan turned to her suddenly. Do you have somewhere to stay? He asked. Clara hesitated. She could lie, or she could tell the truth. I know, she said quietly. Ethan nodded like he had expected that. Come with me, he said. Clara blinked. What? I can't explain it, Ethan said. But I don't think this meeting was an accident. Clara's heart started racing. This didn't make sense. Rich people didn't just help strangers, especially not people like her. I don't want to be a burden, she said quickly. You're not, Ethan replied firmly. Then he added, softer this time, please. That word hit her harder than anything else. Please, not an order, not pity, a request. Clara looked down at her worn-out shoes, at her shaking hands, at the life she had been living, and then she looked at the photo again, at the girl who looked like her, at the life she could never have. Or could she? Something inside her shifted, something dangerous, something desperate. And that was the moment, the exact moment, when Clara Hayes made the decision that would change everything. She looked up at Ethan, and instead of walking away, she nodded. Okay, she said. But as she stood up and followed him toward that black car, a quiet voice inside her whispered something she tried to ignore. This isn't right. And deep down, she already knew. This was the beginning of a lie she might never be able to escape. As the car door closed behind her, Clara took one last look at the bus station, at the bench, at the life she was leaving behind. She didn't know it yet, but she would never sit on that bench again. And by the time the truth came out, someone's heart would be shattered forever. If you're listening, help me prove something wrong. I was told this channel wouldn't reach 1,000 subscribers, but these stories deserve to be heard. If this matters to you, subscribe and help bring them to light. The car door shut with a soft click, but to Clara, it sounded loud, like a door closing on her old life forever. She sat still, her hands folded tightly in her lap. The inside of the car was warm, clean, It smelled like leather and something sweet she couldn't name. Ethan sat across from her, watching quietly. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then the car began to move. Clara looked out the window as the bus station slowly disappeared behind them. Her chest felt tight. "Are you okay?" Ethan asked gently. Clara nodded quickly. "Yes, I just haven't been in a car like this before." Ethan gave a small, understanding smile. "You'll get used to it." That sentence stayed in her mind. "You'll get used to it." Clara wasn't sure she wanted to, because getting used to this meant forgetting where she came from. And something about that didn't feel right. They drove in silence for a while. Tall buildings passed by. Bright lights. Clean streets. Felt like a different world. Finally, Clara spoke. "Your daughter, Eva, what was she like?" Ethan's expression softened again. "She was kind," he said. "Too kind sometimes. She cared about everyone, even people who didn't deserve it." He looked down at his hands. "She used to volunteer at shelters, bring food, sit and talk to people no one else would talk to." Clara swallowed hard. That sounded like the kind of person she wished her own daughter had become. Or maybe the kind of person she wished she had been. "How old was she?" Clara asked quietly. 19, Ethan said. Clara's heart sank. "So young." Ethan nodded, but didn't say anything else. The silence returned, heavier this time. Clara didn't push. Some pain didn't need questions. After a while, the car slowed down. Clara looked outside and her eyes widened. They had stopped in front of a huge house. No, not a house. A mansion. Tall white walls. Large windows. A long driveway. The kind of place Clara had only seen on television. "This is your home?" she whispered. Ethan nodded. Clara felt a sudden wave of fear. "I don't belong here," she said quickly. Ethan turned to her. "You do today." Before she could respond, the driver opened the door. Clara hesitated. Her feet didn't want to move, but Ethan stepped out and held out his hand. "Come on," he said softly. Clara looked at his hand. Then slowly she placed hers in it. Felt strange, warm, safe, and dangerous all at once. She stepped out of the car. The ground beneath her feet felt too clean, too perfect. As they walked toward the front door, Clara noticed something. Workers, staff, they were watching her. Some looked confused. Others looked shocked. One woman, standing near the door, frowned slightly. Clara lowered her head. "She doesn't belong here," she thought. The door opened before they reached it. A tall woman in a neat uniform stood there. "Welcome home, sir," she said. Then her eyes moved to Clara, and she paused, just for a second. But Clara saw it. The surprise. The question. "Who is this?" Ethan didn't wait for her to ask. "This is Clara," he said calmly. "She'll be staying with us." The woman blinked. "Staying, sir?" "Yes," Ethan said firmly. The woman nodded slowly, but her eyes didn't leave Clara. "Of course, sir," she said. Clara felt smaller with every step she took inside. The house was even more beautiful on the inside. Shiny floors, tall ceilings, paintings on the walls. Everything looked perfect. Too perfect. "Let me show you your room," Ethan said. Clara froze. "My room?" "Yes," Ethan said. "You'll need a place to rest." Clara opened her mouth to protest, but the words didn't come out. Instead, she followed him. They walked down a long hallway. Clara's footsteps echoed softly. Finally, Ethan stopped in front of a door. He opened it. Clara stepped inside and gasped. The room was bigger than her entire old apartment. A large bed, soft blankets, a window with a beautiful view, a closet bigger than anything she had ever seen. "This is for me?" she asked. Ethan nodded. "I hope it's okay." Clara felt tears fill her eyes. "Okay?" she whispered. It's more than okay." Ethan smiled gently. "I'll have someone bring you fresh clothes," he said. "And food." Clara nodded, still in shock. Ethan paused at the door. "If you need anything," he said, "just ask." Then he left. The door closed softly behind him, and Clara was alone. She stood in the middle of the room, not moving. It didn't feel real. Slowly, she walked to the bed and touched the blanket. Soft, clean, nothing like what she was used to. She sat down carefully, then lay back. The bed sank under her weight, wrapping around her like a hug. For the first time in years, Clara felt comfortable, safe. But then, that voice came back. You lied. Clara sat up quickly. I didn't lie, she whispered to herself. I just didn't correct him. But even as she said it, she knew the truth. She had seen the way Ethan looked at her, the hope in his eyes, and she had allowed it, because it felt good, because she needed it, because she was tired of being alone. A knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. Clara quickly wiped her eyes. Come in, she said. The same woman from earlier stepped inside. She carried a set of folded clothes. Here, she said, placing them on the bed. Clara nodded. Thank you. The woman didn't leave. Instead, she crossed her arms. What did you say your name was again? She asked. Clara, she replied. The woman studied her carefully. You look familiar, she said slowly. Clara's heart skipped. I don't think so, she said. The woman tilted her head. No, she said. Not familiar like that. She paused. Familiar like someone I've seen before. Clara's hands tightened. The woman stepped closer. Mr. Cole's daughter, she said quietly. You look just like her. Clara forced a small smile. That's what he said. The woman's eyes narrowed slightly. Yes, she said. But here's the strange part. Clara's breath caught. The room suddenly felt smaller. What? She asked. The woman leaned in just a little. I was there, she said softly. The day she died. Clara froze. And I remember her very clearly, the woman continued. Her voice dropped even lower. So tell me something. She looked Clara straight in the eyes. Why do you look exactly like a girl who's supposed to be gone forever? Clara's heart started beating so fast. She thought the woman could hear it. The room felt tight. The air felt heavy. For a moment, she couldn't speak. I don't know what you mean, Clara said, her voice shaking just a little. The woman didn't move. She kept staring. You don't know? She repeated slowly. Clara forced herself to stay calm. People look alike sometimes, she said. It happens. The woman's eyes stayed sharp. Not like this, she replied. Silence filled the room. Clara could feel it pressing down on her. She looked away first. I'm just someone he met today, Clara said quietly. That's all. The woman studied her for a few more seconds. Then she stepped back. She said, but she didn't sound convinced. My name is Margaret, she added. I've worked in this house for over 20 years. Clara nodded slowly. That means I knew Ava, Margaret continued. Clara swallowed. And I know grief can make people see things that aren't there, Margaret said. But it can also make people do things they normally wouldn't do. Clara didn't respond. Margaret picked up the edge of the blanket and straightened it, even though it was already perfect. Mr. Cole has been through a lot, she said. More than most people could handle. Her eyes moved back to Clara. So I hope, for your sake, and his, she paused, that you are exactly who you say you are. With that, she turned and walked toward the door. Clara felt a small breath escape her chest. But just before Margaret stepped out, she stopped. One more thing, she said without turning around. Clara's stomach tightened again. He doesn't bring strangers into this house, Margaret said. Then she looked back over her shoulder. Ever. And then she left. The door closed softly. Clara sat there, frozen. Her hands were shaking now. That woman knows something, she whispered to herself. Or at least, she suspected something. Clara stood up quickly and began pacing the room. This was a mistake, she said under her breath. I shouldn't have come here. But even as she said it, her eyes moved around the room. The bed, the clothes, the safety, the warmth, all the things she didn't have before. Her steps slowed. Just one night, she said softly. I'll stay just one night. That didn't sound so bad. just rest, just food. Then she could leave in the morning, before things got complicated, before anyone started asking too many questions, before her lie became something bigger. Clara nodded to herself. Yes, just one night. But deep down, she already knew it wouldn't be that simple. Later that evening, Clara stood in front of the mirror. She barely recognized herself. Her hair had been washed and brushed neatly. She wore clean clothes that fit her perfectly. Her face looked softer, younger even. For a moment, she didn't look like the woman from the bus station anymore. She looked like someone else, someone who belonged here. Clara touched her cheek slowly. "Is this really me?" she whispered. A soft knock on the door broke her thoughts. "Dinner is ready," a voice said from outside. Clara hesitated. Dinner? In a place like this? With someone like him? Her stomach tightened, but she couldn't say no. "Okay," she replied. She took one last look in the mirror, then turned and walked out. The dining room was huge. A long table sat in the center, covered with food. More food than Clara had seen in months, maybe even years. She stopped at the doorway, unsure. Ethan was already there. He looked up when he saw her, and for a moment he just stared, the same way he had at the bus station, like he couldn't believe she was real. "You look," he started, then paused. Clara felt her chest tighten. "Like her?" she finished quietly. Ethan didn't answer right away. Then he nodded. "Yes," he said softly. Clara forced a small smile and walked in. She sat down carefully. The chair felt too fancy, too delicate. "Please," Ethan said, gesturing to the food. "Eat." Clara didn't need to be told twice, but she tried to stay calm, to eat slowly, even though she was starving. Ethan watched her for a moment. Then he began to eat too. For a while, the only sound was the clinking of utensils. Then Ethan spoke. "Tell me about yourself," he said. Clara froze for just a second. This was it. The moment she had been avoiding. What should she say? The truth? Or something else? She looked up at him, at the hope in his eyes, and something inside her made the choice. I used to have a family," she said slowly. That part was true. "I had a husband," she continued, "and a daughter." Ethan's expression changed slightly. "What happened?" he asked. Clara looked down at her plate. "My husband passed away," she said. Ethan nodded gently. "And your daughter?" he asked. Clara's throat tightened. "She left," she said quietly. "Left," Ethan repeated. Clara nodded. "A long time ago," she said. "We had an argument." She paused. "I said things I shouldn't have said." Ethan didn't interrupt. "I thought she would come back," Clara continued. "But she didn't." Her voice grew softer. "I haven't seen her since." The room felt heavier again. Ethan leaned back slightly. "I understand that," he said. Clara looked up. "You do?" she asked. Ethan nodded. "Regret," he said. "It stays with you." Clara felt that word hit deep. "Yes," she whispered. "It does." There was a long pause. Then Ethan spoke again. "Do you ever think about what you would say if you saw her again?" Clara's heart skipped. "All the time. I would say sorry," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I would say I didn't mean it, and that I miss her." Ethan looked at her closely. "That's exactly what I would say too," he said. Clara felt tears burn in her eyes. She quickly looked away. The moment felt too real, too close to the truth. Suddenly, a loud sound broke the silence. A glass shattered on the floor. Clara jumped. She turned to see Margaret standing near the wall. A tray lay at her feet, broken glass everywhere. "I'm so sorry," Margaret said quickly, but her eyes weren't on the floor. They were on Clara, watching her, studying her, like she had just seen something important, something she didn't expect. Clara's chest tightened. "What is it?" Ethan asked, standing up. Margaret shook her head. "Nothing, sir," she said. "Just an accident." But Clara knew better. That wasn't just an accident. Margaret had reacted to something. Something Clara said. Or maybe something Clara did. As the staff cleaned up the broken glass, Clara tried to stay calm. But inside, her thoughts were racing. What did she notice? What gave me away? And then, as Clara slowly looked back at Ethan, she realized something even worse. He was staring at her again. But this time, it wasn't just sadness in his eyes. It was something else. Something deeper. Something more certain. Like he was starting to believe that she wasn't just someone who looked like his daughter, but someone who could replace her. And that thought terrified her more than anything else. Clara couldn't sleep. She lay in the large, soft bed, staring at the ceiling as the quiet of the mansion wrapped around her. Everything was still. Too still. The kind of silence that made her thoughts louder. She turned to her side, then to the other. But no matter how she moved, one thing wouldn't leave her mind. Margaret's eyes. The way she had stared at her after the glass broke. Like she had figured something out. Clara sat up slowly. "This is getting dangerous," she whispered. At first, she told herself she would stay just one night. Just rest. Just eat. Then leave. But now, things were changing. Ethan was starting to look at her differently. Not just as someone who reminded him of his daughter, but as something more. And Margaret didn't trust her. Clara swung her legs off the bed and stood up. She walked quietly to the window. Outside, the yard stretched wide and peaceful. Lights glowed softly along the path. It looked safe, beautiful, nothing like the world she came from. Clara placed her hand on the glass. "I should leave," she said softly, but her feet didn't move, because leaving meant going back to the cold, the hunger, the loneliness, and for the first time in years, Clara didn't want to be alone anymore. The next morning came too quickly. A soft knock woke her up. Clara opened her eyes slowly. "Come in," she said, her voice still heavy with sleep. The door opened. A young woman stepped inside with a tray of food. "Good morning," she said politely. Clara sat up. "Good morning," she replied. The woman placed the tray on a small table near the bed. "Mr. Cole asked me to bring you breakfast," she said. Clara blinked. "Breakfast? For me?" The woman smiled. "Yes." Clara looked at the tray. Eggs, toast, fresh fruit, juice. It looked perfect. Too perfect. "Thank you," Clara said. The woman nodded and turned to leave. But then she paused. "Oh, and Mr. Cole would like to see you when you're ready." Clara's heart skipped. "See me?" "Yes," the woman said. "In his study." Clara nodded slowly. "Okay, I'll be there soon." The woman left. Clara sat still for a moment, her appetite suddenly gone. "Why does he want to see me?" she wondered. She looked down at the food, then back at the door. Something about this didn't feel normal. But she couldn't avoid him. Not now. A short time later, Clara stood outside a large wooden door. She raised her hand to knock, then hesitated. Her heart was beating fast again. "Just be calm," she whispered to herself. "Just answer his questions, and leave soon." She knocked softly. "Come in." Ethan's voice called from inside. Clara opened the door and stepped in. The room was quiet. Bookshelves lined the walls. A large desk sat near the window. Ethan stood beside it, looking down at something in his hands. He looked up when she entered. "Good morning, Clara," he said. "Good morning," she replied. "Did you sleep well?" Clara nodded. "Yes, thank you." Ethan smiled slightly. "I'm glad." He gestured to a chair across from him. "Please sit." Clara walked over and sat down carefully. Her hands rested tightly in her lap. Ethan didn't sit right away. Instead, he walked slowly around the desk. Then he stopped in front of her, holding something. A photograph. Clara's stomach tightened. "I was looking at this again this morning," Ethan said. He held the photo out to her. It was the same one from before. Eva. Clara took a slow breath. "She looks very kind," Clara said. Ethan nodded. "She was." He paused. Then he looked at Clara more closely. "You remind me of her in more ways than just your face," he said. Clara's heart skipped. "What do you mean?" she asked carefully. Ethan sat down across from her. "The way you speak," he said. The way you listen. He leaned forward slightly. It feels familiar. Clara forced herself to stay calm. I think you just miss her, she said gently. Ethan didn't deny it. Of course I do, he said. Then his voice lowered. But this feels different. Clara felt a chill run through her. Different. That word again. Ethan placed the photo on the desk. Clara, he said slowly, have you ever felt like life gives you a second chance? Clara didn't answer right away. She didn't know how to. I don't understand, she said finally. Ethan held her gaze. I lost my daughter, he said, and I can't change that. Clara nodded. But yesterday, he continued, I saw you. He paused. And for the first time in a long time, I felt something I thought I would never feel again. Clara's chest tightened. Hope. The word hung in the air. Clara's throat went dry. This was getting too deep. Too real. I don't want to replace her, Ethan said quickly. That's not what this is. Clara looked at him carefully. Then what is it? She asked. Ethan leaned back in his chair. It's a connection, he said. Something I can't explain. Clara felt her hands tighten again. This wasn't just kindness anymore. This was something else. Something that could go very wrong. Ethan stood up again. Then he walked to a drawer and opened it. Clara watched closely. He pulled something out. A small velvet box. Her breath caught. Ethan turned back to her. This belonged to Ava, he said. Clara's heart started racing. What is it? She asked. Ethan walked closer. Then he opened the box. Inside was a delicate necklace. Simple. Beautiful. Clara stared at it. I want you to have it, Ethan said. Clara's eyes widened. No, she said quickly. I can't take that. Ethan shook his head. Please, he said. It would mean a lot to me. Clara stood up. This is too much, she said. I'm just a stranger. You're not, Ethan said firmly. The room went quiet. Clara froze. Ethan stepped closer. His voice softer now. Not to me. Clara felt something twist inside her. This was it. The line. The moment where everything could fall apart. I think you're confused, Clara said, trying to stay calm. But Ethan didn't step back. Instead, he looked at her even more closely. Then help me understand, he said. Clara's mind raced. What could she say? What could she do? Before she could answer, a voice came from the doorway. Sir. They both turned. Margaret stood there, her expression serious. I'm sorry to interrupt, she said. But she didn't look sorry. Her eyes moved from Ethan to Clara, then back to Ethan. There's something you need to see, she said. Ethan frowned slightly. What is it? Margaret hesitated. Then she stepped forward and held out something in her hand. A small, folded piece of paper. I found this in the guest room, she said. Clara's stomach dropped. That's not mine, Clara said quickly. But Margaret didn't look at her. She looked only at Ethan. You should read it, she said. Ethan took the paper slowly. Clara's heart pounded in her chest. What is it? Ethan asked. Margaret's voice was calm. Too calm. I think, she said, it might tell you who she really is. The room went silent. Ethan unfolded the paper. And as his eyes began to move across the words, Clara felt the ground beneath her shift. Because whatever was written there was about to change everything. Clara's heart pounded so loudly, it felt like the whole room could hear it. Ethan held the paper in his hands. He hadn't spoken yet. He hadn't looked up. He was just reading. Slowly, carefully. Clara couldn't breathe. What is on that paper? Her mind screamed. She knew one thing for sure. Whatever it wasn't good. Margaret stood still near the door, watching. Waiting. Clara turned to her. That's not mine, she said again, her voice tighter now. Margaret didn't answer. Her face stayed calm. Too calm. Ethan finally looked up. But not at Clara. And Margaret. Where did you find this? He asked. In the guest room, Margaret said. Near the bed. Clara shook her head quickly. I didn't write anything. I don't even know what that is. Ethan's eyes moved to Clara. They weren't soft anymore. They weren't full of hope. They were searching, trying to understand. Clara felt something twist inside her. "Can I see it?" she asked quietly. Ethan hesitated. Then he stepped closer and handed her the paper. Her hands shook as she opened it. Her eyes scanned the words. And for a moment, nothing made sense. It wasn't a confession. It wasn't even about her. It was an old note. Worn. Faded. Written in careful handwriting. Clara read it again. And then her breath caught. "I'm sorry for what I said. I didn't mean it. Please come back. I miss you. Mom." Clara froze. Her fingers tightened around the paper. Her vision blurred slightly, because she recognized those words. She had written them, years ago, to her daughter, Lila. Clara's knees felt weak. "That's?" she whispered. Ethan frowned. "What is it?" Clara looked up at him slowly. "That's my handwriting," she said. The room went quiet. Margaret's eyes narrowed slightly. Ethan's expression changed. "Your handwriting?" he repeated. Clara nodded, still staring at the note. "I wrote this a long time ago," she said. "To my daughter." Ethan stepped closer. "Are you sure?" he asked. Clara swallowed. "Yes," she said. "I remember every word." Her voice cracked slightly. "I never got to give it to her." Silence filled the room again. Margaret crossed her arms. "That doesn't explain how it ended up here," she said. Clara looked at her, confused. "I don't know," she said honestly. "I've never been here before yesterday." Margaret didn't look convinced. Ethan took the paper back slowly. He read it again. His face softened just a little. "I'm sorry for what I said," he read quietly. Then he looked at Clara. "You wrote this to your daughter?" Clara nodded. "Yes." Ethan studied her face. "You said you haven't seen her in years." "That's right," Clara said. "And you kept this note all that time?" Clara hesitated. I thought I lost it," she admitted. Ethan looked back at the paper, then at Margaret. "This doesn't make sense," he said. Margaret stepped forward. "That's what I've been trying to say," she replied. She pointed toward Clara. "She says she's just someone you met yesterday." Clara's chest tightened. "But she walks in here, and suddenly there's a personal note in her room?" Margaret shook her head. "I don't believe in coincidences like that." Clara felt her pulse rise again. "I didn't put that there," she said firmly. Margaret raised an eyebrow. "Then how did it get there?" she asked. Clara opened her mouth, but no words came out, because she didn't know, and that scared her more than anything. Ethan stepped between them. "That's enough," he said calmly. Margaret went quiet, but her eyes didn't leave Clara. Ethan turned to Clara again. "Maybe there's an explanation," he said. Clara nodded quickly. "Yes, there has to be." But her voice didn't sound confident. Not even to her. Ethan looked down at the note one more time. Then he folded it carefully. "I'm going to keep this," he said. Clara didn't argue. She couldn't. Her mind was still spinning. Ethan placed the note in his pocket. Then he looked at Clara. "Clara," he said gently, "I need you to be honest with me." Her heart skipped. "I am being honest," she said quickly. Ethan held her gaze. "Is there anything you're not telling me?" Clara froze. That question hit deeper than anything else. Because the answer was yes. There was something she wasn't telling him. The truth. But she couldn't say it. Not now. Not when everything was already so fragile. "I've told you everything," she said quietly. Ethan didn't respond right away. He just looked at her, trying to read her, trying to decide if he believed her. Finally, he nodded. "All right," he said, but something in his voice had changed. It wasn't the same as before. There was doubt now. Small, but there. Margaret noticed it too. Clara could see it in her eyes. "This is bad," Clara thought. "Things are slipping." Ethan turned toward the door. "I need some time to think," he said. He paused, then looked back at Clara. "You should get some rest." Clara nodded slowly. "Okay." Ethan walked out of the room. Margaret stayed behind for a moment. The silence between her and Clara felt heavy. Then Margaret stepped closer. "You're hiding something," she said quietly. Clara shook her head. "No, I'm not." Margaret leaned in slightly. "I don't know what your plan is," she said. "But I will find out." Clara's chest tightened. "I don't have a plan," she said. Margaret studied her face. Then she straightened up. "We'll see," she said. And then she left. The door closed. Clara stood there alone again, her hands shaking, her thoughts racing. "That note," she whispered. "How did it get here?" She walked slowly to the chair and sat down. Her legs felt weak. Nothing made sense anymore. First, Ethan believed she looked like his daughter. Then Margaret started asking questions. Now, a letter from her past had appeared in a place it shouldn't be. Clara covered her face with her hands. "This is going too far," she said. But deep down, something else was bothering her. Something she couldn't ignore. She remembered the exact moment she lost that note. It wasn't just lost. She had hidden it, in a place only one person knew about. Her daughter, Lila. Clara's hands slowly lowered. Her eyes widened. "No," she whispered. "That's not possible." But the thought wouldn't go away. If Lila had that note, and now it's here, Clara's heart began to race faster than ever, because there was only one explanation that made sense. And it was impossible, unless her daughter had been here, in this house. Clara stood up suddenly, her breath shaky. Why would she come here? She asked herself. And if she did, her voice dropped to a whisper. Where is she now? The room felt colder, darker, and for the first time since she arrived, Clara felt something new. Not guilt, not fear, but something deeper, something that made her chest tighten in a way she couldn't explain. Because if her daughter was somehow connected to this place, then this wasn't just a lie anymore. It was something much bigger, and much more dangerous. And somewhere in the house, a door creaked open slowly. Clara turned her head sharply toward the sound. Her heart stopped for a second, because she knew one thing for sure. She wasn't alone anymore. Clara stood frozen in the middle of the room. The sound had been soft, just a small creak. But in a house this quiet, it felt loud. Too loud. Her eyes moved slowly toward the door. "Hello?" she called out. No answer. Her heart beat faster. "Maybe it's just the wind," she whispered to herself. But deep down, she knew it wasn't. This house didn't feel like the kind of place where doors just opened on their own. Clara took a careful step forward. Then another. Her feet moved slowly across the floor. The closer she got to the door, the tighter her chest felt. She reached out and touched the handle. It was slightly warm, like someone had just been there. Clara pulled the door open. The hallway was empty, long, quiet, no one in sight. She stepped out. "Is someone there?" she asked again. Still nothing. But then, a soft sound. Footsteps. Faint. Coming from the end of the hallway. Clara turned her head quickly. She saw something move, just for a second. A shadow slipping around the corner. Her breath caught. "Wait!" she called. But the shadow was gone. Clara hesitated. Every part of her told her to go back into the room, to close the door, to stay safe. But something else pushed her forward. Something stronger. She had to know. Clara walked down the hallway slowly. Each step felt heavier than the last. The house seemed different now. Not warm, not safe, but full of questions. She reached the corner where the shadow had disappeared. She stopped, took a breath, then turned. Another hallway stretched out before her, dimly lit, quiet, too quiet. Clara stepped forward. "Hello?" she called again. This time, a voice answered. "Clara." Clara froze. Her heart stopped for a moment. That voice, it was soft, familiar, but she couldn't place it. "Who's there?" she asked, her voice shaking. No answer, just silence again. Clara's hands trembled. "This isn't right," she whispered. She turned quickly, ready to go back, ready to leave. But then, "Clara," the voice came again, closer this time. Right behind her, Clara spun around and gasped. A young woman stood there, not far from her, still, quiet, watching her. Clara's eyes widened. Her breath caught in her throat, because the woman looked familiar, too familiar. "Who are you?" Clara asked, barely able to speak. The young woman didn't answer right away. She just looked at Clara. Her eyes filled with something deep, something painful. "You don't recognize me?" she said softly. Clara's chest tightened. That voice, that face, it stirred something inside her. A memory, a feeling, but it didn't make sense. "No," Clara whispered. I don't." The young woman took a small step forward. Her expression didn't change, but her voice did. It grew heavier, more emotional. "You wrote me a letter once," she said. Clara's heart dropped. "A letter," she repeated. The young woman nodded slowly. "You said you were sorry," she continued. "You said you didn't mean it." Clara's hands started shaking again. "No," she whispered. "It can't be." The young woman stepped closer, now only a few feet away. "You said you missed me," she said. Clara felt tears rise in her eyes. "Lila?" she whispered. The name barely left her lips. The young woman didn't smile, didn't cry. She just looked at her. "Yes," she said quietly. Clara's knees nearly gave out. "Lila," she said again, louder this time. Her daughter, after all these years, standing right in front of her. Alive, real. Clara took a step forward, then another. Her hands reached out slightly. "I thought I lost you," she said, her voice breaking. But Lila didn't move. She didn't step closer. She didn't reach back. Instead, she stayed still, her expression unreadable. "Why are you here?" Lila asked. Clara froze. The question hit hard. I didn't know you were here," Clara said quickly. "I swear." Lila's eyes narrowed slightly. "But you're here now," she said. Clara nodded slowly. "Yes." Silence fell between them, heavy, uncomfortable. Clara tried to step closer again, but Lila took a step back. "Don't," she said. Clara stopped. Her heart cracked just a little. "Lila," she whispered. "Please." "Why now?" Lila asked suddenly, her voice sharper, stronger. Clara blinked. "What? Why now?" Lila repeated. "Why show up here? After all this time?" Clara shook her head. "I didn't come looking for you," she said. "I didn't even know." "But you stayed." Lila cut in. Clara fell silent, because that was true. She had stayed, even when things didn't feel right, even when she knew she should leave. "I had nowhere else to go," Clara said softly. Lila stared at her. "And this place?" she asked. "This man?" Clara hesitated. "I met him yesterday," she said. "He thought I looked like his daughter." Lila's expression changed slightly. "Of course he did," she muttered. Clara frowned. "What does that mean?" Lila looked away for a moment, then back at Clara. "You really don't know, do you?" she said. Clara's heart started racing again. "Know what?" she asked. Lila didn't answer right away. She seemed to be thinking, deciding something. Then she spoke. "I work here," she said. Clara blinked. "You what?" "I've been working in this house for months," Lila continued. Clara felt her mind spin. "That's not possible," she said. "Why would you?" "Because I needed a job," Lila said simply. Clara stared at her. All those years, all that distance, and somehow, they had ended up in the same place, without knowing. "This doesn't make sense," Clara said. Lila gave a small, sad smile. "No," she said, "it doesn't." Another silence. Then Clara spoke again. "Did you leave the note?" she asked. Lila didn't answer, but her eyes said everything. Clara's breath caught. "You did," she said. Lila looked down for a moment. "I kept it," she admitted. "All these years." Clara felt tears fall down her face. "I thought you never saw it," she said. "I did," Lila replied quietly. Clara's heart broke all over again. "Then why didn't you come back?" she asked. Lila looked up at her, and for the first time, there was anger in her eyes. Because sometimes, she said, sorry isn't enough. Clara stepped back slightly. The words hit deep. I was hurt, Lila continued. You said things that stayed with me. Clara shook her head. I didn't mean them, she said. But you said them, Lila replied. Silence. Heavy. Painful. Clara wiped her tears. I missed you every day, she said. Lila's expression softened just a little, but only for a second. Then it was gone. You should leave, Lila said suddenly. Clara froze. What? This house, Lila said. This situation. It's not what you think. Clara's heart tightened. What do you mean? Lila looked around quickly, like she was making sure no one else was listening. Then she stepped closer. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Ethan Cole didn't just lose his daughter, she said. Clara felt a chill run down her spine. What are you saying? She asked. Lila's eyes locked onto hers. There's more to her story, she said. Clara's breath caught. And if you stay here, Lila paused, her voice trembling slightly. You might end up in the middle of something you can't escape. Clara felt fear rise in her chest again. What kind of something? She asked. But before Lila could answer, a voice echoed down the hallway. Clara? Ethan. Both of them froze. Lila stepped back quickly. You need to go, she whispered. Clara looked at her, confused. But now, Lila insisted. Footsteps were getting closer. Clara's heart raced. She looked at her daughter one last time. So many questions. So many things left unsaid. But no time. She turned and hurried back down the hallway. As she reached her room, she glanced back. Lila was gone, like she had never been there. Clara stepped inside quickly and closed the door, her chest rising and falling fast. A second later, a knock. Clara? Ethan's voice came again. Clara wiped her face quickly. I'm here, she said. The door opened. Ethan stepped in. He looked at her closely. Are you all right? He asked. Clara nodded. Yes, I just needed some air. Ethan studied her for a moment. Then he smiled slightly. I wanted to show you something, he said. Clara forced herself to stay calm. Okay. Ethan turned toward the door. Come with me, he said. Clara hesitated. Her mind raced with everything Lila had said. This house. It's not what you think. Clara took a slow breath, then followed him. But deep down, she knew one thing had changed forever. She wasn't just hiding a lie anymore. She was walking straight into a secret, and that secret was about to pull her in deeper than she could ever imagine. Clara followed Ethan down the hallway, her steps slow and uncertain. Her mind was still racing. Lila's words echoed over and over again. This house. It's not what you think. Clara glanced at Ethan's back as he walked ahead of her. He looked calm, normal, like nothing was wrong. But now, she wasn't sure she could trust that. Where are we going? Clara asked softly. Ethan didn't turn around. There's something I want you to see, he said. Something in his voice felt different, more serious. Clara's chest tightened. She thought about stopping, about turning around. But it was too late now. They reached the end of the hallway. Ethan stopped in front of a door. It looked older than the others, darker. He placed his hand on the handle but didn't open it right away. Instead, he looked at Clara. I don't show this room to anyone, he said. Clara felt a chill run down her spine. Then why show me? She asked. Ethan held her gaze. Because you're not just anyone, he said quietly. Clara's heart skipped. There it was again. That belief. That dangerous connection he was building. Before she could respond, Ethan opened the door. Come in, he said. Clara hesitated, then stepped inside. The room was dim. The curtains were closed. Soft light came from a small lamp in the corner. At first, Clara didn't understand what she was looking at. Then her eyes adjusted, and her breath caught. Photos, dozens of them, covering the walls. All of the same girl, Eva. Clara stepped forward slowly. Each photo showed a different moment. Ava laughing. Ava smiling. Ava sitting beside Ethan. Ava holding a book. Ava helping someone. Clara's chest tightened. It felt like she had walked into someone's memory. This was her room, Ethan said quietly behind her. Clara turned slightly. You kept everything, she whispered. Ethan nodded. I couldn't change it, he said. I didn't want to forget anything. Clara looked back at the photos. The girl in them, she really did look like her. Not exactly the same, but close enough to make it feel strange. Unsettling. She seems like a good person, Clara said. She was, Ethan replied. Clara walked closer to one of the photos. Ava was sitting on a bench, smiling gently at the camera. There was something kind in her eyes, something soft. Clara felt a strange feeling in her chest. Guilt, because she knew she was standing in a place that didn't belong to her. You don't have to be afraid of this room, Ethan said. Clara turned to him. I'm not afraid, she said, but that wasn't completely true. Ethan stepped closer. I brought you here because I want you to understand something, he said. Clara stayed still. What is it? She asked. Ethan took a deep breath. Losing her, he began. It broke me. Clara didn't interrupt. I tried to move on, he continued. I tried to forget, but I couldn't. His voice lowered. Because I never got the truth. Clara's heart skipped. The truth? She repeated. Ethan nodded slowly. They said it was an accident, he said. Clara felt a cold wave move through her. But I never believed that, Ethan added. The room suddenly felt heavier. What do you mean? Clara asked carefully. Ethan walked toward a desk in the corner. He opened a drawer and pulled something out. A folder. He held it tightly. I've spent years trying to understand what really happened, he said. Clara's hands began to feel cold. And I'm closer than ever, he added. Clara swallowed. Closer to what? Ethan looked at her. To the truth, he said. He stepped toward her again. Then he opened the folder. Inside were papers, reports, photos. Clara couldn't see clearly from where she stood. But she didn't need to. She could feel it. This was serious. This isn't just grief, Ethan said. This is unfinished business. Clara's chest tightened again. Lila's warning came back. There's more to her story. Why are you telling me this? Clara asked. Ethan didn't answer right away. Instead, he reached into the folder and pulled out a photograph. Not like the others. This one was different. He handed it to Clara. Her hands trembled as she took it. She looked down, and her breath stopped. It was Ava, but she wasn't smiling. She looked scared. The photo was blurry, like it had been taken quickly, in secret. Clara's heart pounded. Where did this come from? She asked. Ethan's voice was low. It was taken the day she died, he said. Clara felt a chill run through her entire body. That's not possible, she whispered. Ethan nodded. That's what I thought too, he said. But then I found it. Clara looked closer at the photo. Something about it felt wrong. Unfinished. Like it was only part of a bigger story. She wasn't alone, Ethan said. Clara looked up quickly. What? Ethan stepped closer. There was someone with her, he said. Clara's chest tightened. Do you know who? She asked. Ethan's eyes darkened slightly. I'm trying to find out, he said. Clara felt fear rise again. Because now, this wasn't just about a lost daughter. This was about something deeper, something hidden, and she was standing right in the middle of it. Ethan took the photo back slowly. I didn't bring you here just to show you this, he said. Clara frowned slightly. Then why? Ethan looked at her carefully. Because when I look at you, he said, I feel like I'm getting closer to her again. Clara's heart dropped. This isn't right, she thought. Ethan stepped even closer now. And maybe, he continued, you can help me understand what really happened. Clara froze. Help you? She repeated. Ethan nodded. You see things differently, he said. You notice things. Clara shook her head slightly. I don't know anything about this, she said. But even as she spoke, She remembered something. The shadow. The voice. Lila. Working in the house. And now this photo. Everything was starting to connect. But not in a way she understood. Ethan watched her closely. You don't have to decide right now, he said. Clara nodded slowly. Okay. The room fell silent again. Clara glanced around one more time. At the photos. At the life that had been lost. At the place she didn't belong. Then, a small sound broke the silence. A click. Clara turned her head quickly. Did you hear that? She asked. Ethan frowned. Hear what? Another sound. This time clearer. From inside the room. Clara's eyes moved toward the wall. One of the shelves had shifted. Just slightly. Her breath caught. Ethan, she whispered. He followed her gaze. The shelf moved again. Just a little. Like something behind it was pushing. Clara stepped back. What is that? She asked. Ethan walked closer to the shelf. Slowly. Carefully. Then he reached out and pulled it. The shelf slid open, revealing something hidden behind it. A small, dark space. A secret compartment. Clara's heart raced. Inside, there was a box. Old, dusty, forgotten. Ethan stared at it, his face tense. I've never seen this before, he said. Clara felt her hands shake again. What if this is it? She whispered. The truth. Ethan slowly reached inside and pulled the box out. He held it in his hands, hesitating, like he wasn't sure if he was ready. Clara watched him closely, her breath shallow, because whatever was inside that box was about to change everything. And this time, there was no turning back. Ethan held the box in both hands. He didn't open it right away. He just stared at it, like he already knew whatever was inside would hurt. Clara stood a few steps behind him. Her heart was beating fast. Open it, she said softly. Ethan didn't move. His fingers tightened around the edges. I've spent years looking for answers, he said quietly. Clara swallowed. And now they're right in front of you, she replied. Ethan took a slow breath. Then, he opened the box. Inside, there were only a few things. A small notebook, a silver bracelet, and a folded piece of paper. Clara stepped closer. That's it? She asked. Ethan didn't answer. He reached in and picked up the bracelet first. It was simple but elegant. Clara noticed something engraved on the inside. Ethan turned it slightly and read out loud. Ava Cole. His voice broke. Clara looked at him. She kept it hidden, she said. Ethan nodded slowly. Why would she hide something like this? He asked. Clara didn't have an answer. Ethan placed the bracelet carefully back into the box. Then he picked up the notebook. It was worn, used. The pages looked old. Clara felt a strange feeling in her chest. This feels important, she said. Ethan opened it slowly. The first page had a date. Clara leaned in to see. Her breath caught. It's from just days before she died, she whispered. Ethan nodded. He began to read silently. His eyes moved quickly across the page. Then he stopped. His face changed. What is it? Clara asked. Ethan didn't respond. He turned the page. Read again. And again. Each time his expression grew darker. Clara's hands trembled. Ethan, what does it say? He finally looked up. His voice was low. She was afraid, he said. Clara's chest tightened. Afraid of what? Ethan looked back down at the notebook. She wrote that someone was watching her, he said. Clara felt a chill run through her. Watching her. Ethan nodded. She didn't say who, he continued. But she knew something wasn't right. Clara's mind raced. Lila's warning came back again. This house. It's not what you think. What else? Clara asked. Ethan turned another page. His hands shook slightly now. She met someone, he said. Clara frowned. Who? Ethan shook his head. She didn't write a name. Clara felt frustration build. Why would she hide that? She asked. Ethan didn't answer. He just kept reading. Then suddenly, he stopped again. This time his breath caught. Clara stepped closer. What is it? She asked. Ethan didn't look at her. He just turned the notebook toward her. "Read it," he said. Clara looked down at the page. Her eyes scanned the words, and her heart dropped. "I think I made a mistake. I trusted someone I shouldn't have. If anything happens to me, it wasn't an accident." Clara's hands began to shake. "She knew," she whispered. Ethan's face was tense. "She knew something was going to happen," he said. Clara looked up at him. "This changes everything," she said. Ethan nodded slowly. "Yes," he said. "It does." Silence filled the room. Heavy. Real. Clara felt fear rise in her chest again. Because now, this wasn't just a mystery. This was something dangerous. Something planned. Ethan closed the notebook carefully. Then he picked up the last item in the box. The folded paper. He stared at it for a moment, then opened it. Clara watched closely. "What does it say?" she asked. Ethan didn't answer right away. His eyes moved across the page. Then his hand dropped slightly. Clara stepped forward. "Ethan?" He looked at her slowly, his face pale. "It's a name," he said. Clara's heart skipped. "A name?" Ethan nodded. Clara swallowed. "Who?" Ethan hesitated, like he didn't want to say it, like saying it would make it real. Finally he spoke. "Margaret." The room went completely still. Clara's breath stopped. "No," she whispered. Ethan held up the paper. "She wrote it here," he said. Clara stepped closer. Her eyes locked onto the word. Margaret. Clear. Undeniable. "This can't be right," Clara said. Ethan's expression hardened. "She worked here for 20 years, he said. Clara's mind raced. "That doesn't mean she did anything," she said quickly. But even as she spoke, she remembered Margaret's behavior, the questions, the way she watched, the way she reacted at dinner. Something wasn't right. Ethan looked at the notebook again. "She said she trusted the wrong person," he said. Clara felt a knot form in her chest. "And now we have a name." Clara shook her head. "Maybe it's not what it looks like," she said. Ethan looked at her. What else could it be? Clara didn't know, but she felt it. Something was off. Something didn't fit. "This feels too easy," she said. Ethan frowned. "What do you mean?" Clara took a breath. "If Margaret did something, why would Ava just write her name like that?" she asked. Ethan paused. Clara continued. "It's like she wanted someone to find it," she said. Ethan's eyes narrowed slightly. "You think this was meant to be discovered?" Clara nodded slowly. "Yes." Silence fell again. Ethan looked down at the box, then back at Clara. "So what are you saying?" he asked. Clara hesitated, then spoke carefully. "I think someone wanted you to see this," she said. Ethan's jaw tightened. "Why?" Clara's voice dropped. "To make you believe something." Before Ethan could respond, a sudden sound echoed through the room. Footsteps. Fast. Coming toward them. Clara's heart jumped. Ethan turned toward the door. It swung open. Margaret stood there, her eyes sharp, her breathing slightly heavy. She looked at them, then at the open box, then at the papers in Ethan's hand. And in that moment, everything changed. "What are you doing in here?" Margaret asked. Her voice was calm, but her eyes weren't. Ethan didn't answer right away. He just held up the paper, the one with her name on it. Margaret's expression didn't change, not even a little. "I think you already know," Ethan said slowly. The room went silent. Clara's heart pounded. This was it. The moment everything would come out. Margaret looked at the paper, then back at Ethan. And then, she did something unexpected. She smiled. Not kindly, not softly, but cold, sharp, and unsettling. "If you think you've found the truth," she said quietly, "then you're already too late." Clara felt a chill run through her entire body. Ethan stepped forward. "What does that mean?" he demanded. Margaret didn't answer. Instead, she looked at Clara, directly, her eyes locked onto hers. And in that moment, Clara realized something terrifying. Margaret wasn't surprised. She wasn't afraid. She wasn't even trying to deny it. It was like She had been waiting for this. Waiting for them to find the box. Waiting for the truth to come out. But not in the way they thought. Clara's voice shook. You knew this was here, didn't you? Margaret tilted her head slightly. Of course I did, she said. Clara's stomach dropped. Ethan's fists clenched. Then why hide it? He asked. Margaret's smile faded slightly. I didn't hide it, she said. Clara frowned. Then who did? Margaret's eyes darkened. That's the question you should be asking, she said. Silence. Heavy. Confusing. Clara's mind spun. Nothing made sense anymore. Margaret took a step back toward the door. You're looking in the wrong direction, she said. Ethan stepped forward quickly. Don't walk away, he said. Margaret stopped. But she didn't turn around. If you want the truth, she said quietly, stop looking at the past. And start looking at who's standing right in front of you. Clara's breath caught. What does that mean? She asked. Margaret slowly turned her head. Her eyes met Clara's, and her voice dropped to a whisper. It means. She paused, then finished. Not everyone in this house is who they say they are. Clara felt her heart stop, because for a second, it felt like Margaret wasn't talking about herself. She was talking about her. And before Clara could react, Margaret walked out, leaving the door open behind her, and leaving Clara with one terrifying thought. Had Margaret just exposed her? Without saying it out loud, the door stayed open. No one moved. Clara stood frozen, her eyes still fixed on the empty doorway where Margaret had just been. Her heart pounded so hard it hurt. Not everyone in this house is who they say they are. Those words echoed in her head. Over and over. Ethan was the first to move. He stepped forward and closed the door slowly. The soft click sounded louder than anything else. Then he turned and looked at Clara. Really looked at her. Not like before. Not with warmth. Not with hope. But with questions. Sharp ones. Clara felt her throat go dry. Ethan, she started. But she didn't know what to say next. Because for the first time, she felt like she was the one being uncovered. Ethan walked toward her slowly. The paper with Margaret's name was still in his hand. But his attention wasn't on it anymore. It was on her. What did she mean? He asked quietly. Clara's chest tightened. I don't know, she said quickly. But her voice didn't sound strong. Ethan stopped in front of her. You don't know? He repeated. Clara shook her head. No. But even as she said it, she knew that wasn't completely true. She knew what Margaret was hinting at. Her lie. Her secret. The thing she had been hiding from the moment she walked into this house. Ethan studied her face. You've been honest with me, right? He asked. That question hit harder than anything else. Clara froze. Her heart pounded. This was it. The moment. She could tell him the truth. Right now. She could explain everything. But then what? Would he throw her out? Would he hate her? Would she lose the only place that had felt safe in years? Clara swallowed. Yes, she said quietly. The word left her lips, but it didn't feel right. Ethan didn't respond immediately. He just kept looking at her, like he was trying to see past her words, into something deeper. Then he stepped back. All right, he said, but something in his voice had changed again. There was distance now. Doubt. Clara felt it. And it scared her. Later that evening, the house felt different. Colder. Quieter. Clara walked slowly down the hallway, her arms wrapped around herself. She couldn't stop thinking. About the box. The notebook. The name. And Margaret's warning. Nothing felt simple anymore. Nothing felt safe. As she turned a corner, she saw someone ahead. A familiar figure. Lila. Clara's heart jumped. Lila, she called softly. Lila turned quickly. Her eyes widened slightly when she saw her. You shouldn't be walking around like this, Lila said in a low voice. Clara stepped closer. I need answers, she said. Lila glanced around quickly. Not here, she whispered. Clara frowned. Then where? Lila hesitated, then nodded toward a nearby door. Inside, she said. They both slipped into the room quietly. Lila closed the door behind them. What's going on? Clara asked immediately. Lila crossed her arms. You tell me, she said. Clara blinked. What? You're the one who came into this house pretending to be someone you're not, Lila said. Clara felt her chest tighten. I didn't pretend, she said. I just didn't correct him. That's the same thing, Lila replied. Clara looked down. I didn't mean for it to go this far, she said. Lila sighed. It never starts that way. Silence filled the room for a moment. Then Clara spoke again. We found something, she said. Lila's expression changed slightly. What? Clara took a breath. A hidden box, she said. In Ava's room. Lila's eyes widened. What was in it? Clara stepped closer. A notebook, she said. She wrote that she was scared, that someone was watching her. Lila's face grew serious. What else? Clara hesitated, then said it. Your boss's name. Lila froze. Margaret. Clara nodded. She wrote it down, Clara said, like she was trying to warn someone. Lila shook her head slowly. No, that doesn't make sense. That's what I said, Clara replied. But Ethan believes it, she added. Lila ran a hand through her hair. This is bad, she said. Clara frowned. Why? Lila looked at her. Because Margaret didn't do it. Clara's heart skipped. You sound sure, she said. I am, Lila replied. How can you be? Clara asked. Lila hesitated, then spoke carefully. Because I've been watching this house, she said. Clara blinked. Watching it? Lila nodded. Something hasn't been right for a long time, she said. Even before you showed up. Clara felt her pulse rise. What do you mean? Lila stepped closer. There are things that don't add up, she said. People coming and going at strange times. Rooms being locked. Conversations that stop when someone walks in. Clara's chest tightened. And Margaret? She asked. She knows something, Lila said. But she's not the one behind it. Clara felt confusion take over. Then who is? Lila didn't answer right away. Instead, she looked at Clara closely. Tell me something, she said. Clara nodded slowly. When you met Ethan, how did he find you? Lila asked. Clara frowned. He just saw me, she said. At the bus station. Lila's eyes narrowed slightly. Just saw you? Clara nodded. Yes. Lila looked away for a moment, thinking. Then she looked back. That's not random, she said. Clara felt a chill. What are you saying? Lila's voice dropped. I think you were brought here, she said. Clara's breath caught. Brought here? Lila nodded. Not by chance, she continued. By design. Clara shook her head quickly. That doesn't make sense, she said. But even as she said it, she remembered something. The car. The way Ethan had looked at her. Like he had been searching for something, and finally found it. Clara's stomach twisted. No, she whispered. Lila stepped closer. You look like his daughter, she said. Too much like her. Clara's heart pounded. That's not my fault, she said. I know, Lila replied. But what if someone knew that before he did? Clara froze. The thought hit her like a shock. What if someone wanted you here? Lila added. The room felt smaller, colder. Clara's hands began to shake. Why would anyone do that? She asked. Lila's eyes darkened. To control him, she said. Clara's breath caught. Control Ethan? Lila nodded. He's powerful, she said. Rich. Influential. Clara's mind raced. And if someone could manipulate his emotions? Lila continued. They could manipulate everything else. Clara felt fear rise higher than before. Who would do something like that? She asked. Lila hesitated, then whispered. Someone close. Silence filled the room. Heavy. Terrifying. Clara's thoughts spun out of control. Margaret. Ethan. The staff. Anyone. Could be anyone. Then, a loud noise echoed from the hallway. Both of them froze. What was that? Clara whispered. Lila moved toward the door slowly. I don't know, she said. She opened it just a crack. and looked out. Then her body stiffened. "What is it?" Clara asked. Lila didn't answer right away. Then she stepped back, her face pale. "It's Ethan," she said. Clara's heart jumped. "What about him?" Lila looked at her. "He's not alone." Clara's chest tightened. "Who is he with?" Lila swallowed, then said the one thing Clara didn't expect. "The police." Clara felt the ground drop beneath her. "The police?" she whispered. Lila nodded. "They're asking questions," she said. Clara's heart raced faster than ever. "About what?" Lila looked at her directly, her voice low. "About you." Clara's heart stopped. "For me?" she whispered. Lila nodded. Her face was serious. "They're downstairs," she said. "In the main hall." Clara felt her legs weaken. "Why would the police be asking about me?" she asked. But even as she said it, she already knew. The lie, the truth she had been hiding. It had finally caught up to her. "I told you this wasn't safe," Lila said quietly. Clara shook her head. "No, this doesn't make sense," she said. "I didn't do anything wrong." Lila looked at her. "You walked into a house pretending to be someone else," she said. Clara's chest tightened. "I didn't pretend," she said again, weaker this time. Lila didn't argue. She just watched her. "Whether you meant to or not," she said, "you're part of this now." Clara felt panic rising in her chest. "What do I do?" she asked. Lila glanced toward the door. "You can't run," she said. "That will only make it worse." Clara's breathing grew faster. "Then what?" Lila stepped closer. "You need to stay calm," she said. "And you need to be careful with what you say." Clara nodded quickly, but her hands were shaking. "I don't think I can do this," she whispered. Lila grabbed her arm gently. "You have to," she said. Before Clara could respond, footsteps approached. Both of them froze. The door opened. Ethan stood there. Behind him, 2 police officers. Clara's chest tightened instantly. "This is her," Ethan said. Clara felt the words hit like a blow. The officers stepped forward. One of them, a tall man with a serious face, spoke first. "Ma'am," he said, "we need to ask you a few questions." Clara swallowed. "About what?" she asked. The officer glanced at Ethan, then back at her. "About your identity." Clara felt her heart pound harder. "My identity?" she repeated. "Yes," the officer said. "We have reason to believe you may not be who you claim to be." The room went silent. Clara looked at Ethan. His face was unreadable. "Ethan," she started, but he didn't respond. He just watched, waiting. Clara turned back to the officers. "I told you my name," she said. "Clara Hayes." The officer nodded. "That's what you said," he replied. Clara's throat tightened. "But?" she asked. The officer took a step closer. "But we've received information that suggests otherwise," he said. Clara's mind raced. "What information?" she asked. The second officer, a woman, spoke this time. "A report was filed this morning," she said. Clara blinked. "A report?" "Yes," the officer said. "Someone claimed that a woman matching your description has been missing for several years." Clara froze. "What?" she whispered. "That woman," the officer continued, "was believed to be deceased." Clara's breath caught. "That's not true," she said quickly. "I'm right here." The officers exchanged a glance. "That's what we're trying to confirm," the first officer said. Clara felt dizzy. Nothing made sense. Missing? Deceased? Who would say something like that? And why? "I've been living on my own," Clara said. "I just lost everything." The officer nodded slowly. "Then you won't mind answering a few more questions," he said. Clara hesitated. Her mind flashed with Lila's warning. "Be careful with what you say." "Okay," Clara said quietly. The officer pulled out a small notebook. "When was the last time you saw your daughter?" he asked. Clara's chest tightened. "Years ago," she said. "What's her name?" Clara hesitated for just a second. "Lila," she said. The officer wrote it down. And where is she now? Clara swallowed. I don't know, she said. The officer looked up. You have no contact with her? Clara shook her head. No. Lila stood silently in the corner, watching, listening, but she didn't speak. Interesting, the officer said. Clara frowned. What does that mean? The officer flipped a page in his notebook. Because according to the report, he said, your daughter has been looking for you. Clara's heart stopped again. Looking for me? She whispered. The officer nodded. For years. Clara's eyes slowly moved to Lila. Lila didn't react, didn't move, didn't speak. Clara's chest tightened. She found me, Clara thought. But why would she report me missing? The officer continued. She claimed that you disappeared after a serious argument, he said. Clara felt tears fill her eyes. That's not what happened, she said. Then what did happen? The officer asked. Clara opened her mouth, but the words didn't come, because the truth was messy, painful, complicated. I left, she said finally. The officer raised an eyebrow. You left? He repeated. Clara nodded. Yes. And you never contacted her again? He asked. Clara shook her head slowly. No. The officer wrote something down, then looked at her again. Do you understand how that might look? He asked. Clara didn't answer, because she did understand. It looked like she had disappeared, like she had abandoned her life, like something had happened to her. And now, she had suddenly appeared again, in a billionaire's home, looking like his dead daughter. Clara felt the weight of it all crash down on her. This is a mistake, she said, but her voice sounded small, uncertain. The officer closed his notebook. We're not saying you've done anything wrong, he said. Then why am I being questioned? Clara asked. The officer looked at her carefully. Because there are too many strange things happening, he said. Clara's heart pounded. Like what? She asked. The officer glanced at Ethan again, then back at her. For example, he said, the connection between you and this house. Clara's stomach dropped. What connection? She asked. The officer's voice lowered. The girl who lived here, he said. Ava Cole. Clara felt a chill run through her. What about her? The officer studied her face. You look almost identical to her, he said. Clara didn't respond. And according to some records, he continued. He paused, then finished. You were seen near this property. The day she died. Clara's world stopped. What? She whispered. That's impossible, she said quickly. I've never been here before yesterday. The officer didn't argue, but he didn't look convinced either. That's something we'll need to verify, he said. Clara turned to Ethan. You don't believe that, do you? She asked. Ethan didn't answer right away. His silence said everything. Clara felt her heart break a little. Ethan, she whispered, but he stepped back, just slightly, like he didn't know what to think anymore. Clara felt tears fall down her face. This isn't right, she said. Someone is lying. The officer nodded. That's what we're trying to figure out, he said. Silence filled the room again. Then, Lila stepped forward. Finally. That's enough, she said. All eyes turned to her. The officers looked surprised. Ethan frowned. Lila, he said. Clara's heart skipped. The officer looked between them. You know her? He asked. Lila didn't hesitate. Yes, she said. The room went still. Clara stared at her. What are you doing? She whispered. Lila ignored her. Instead, she looked directly at the officers. You're asking the wrong questions, she said. The first officer frowned. What do you mean? Lila took a breath, then said something that changed everything. If you really want the truth about what happened to Ava Cole. She paused, then finished. You need to stop questioning her. She pointed at Clara. And start questioning him. The room went completely silent. Clara's breath caught. Slowly, every eye turned toward Ethan. And for the first time since she met him, Clara saw something she had never seen before. Not sadness, not confusion, but fear. The room felt like it stopped breathing. Everyone was looking at Ethan now. The officers, Clara, even Lila. Ethan stood still near the doorway. For the first time since Clara met him, he didn't look calm. He didn't look in control. He looked trapped. "What did you just say?" Ethan asked quietly. Lila didn't move. "I said," she repeated. "You're asking the wrong person." One of the officers stepped forward. "Sir," he said carefully, "do you know what she's talking about?" Ethan shook his head quickly. "No," he said. "This is nonsense." But his voice wasn't steady. Clara noticed that, and it made her stomach twist. The officer looked at Lila. "Explain yourself," he said. Lila took a slow breath. "I work here," she said. "I've seen things that don't add up." Ethan frowned. "This is not the time," he said sharply. Lila turned to him. "It is exactly the time," she replied. Silence fell again. Heavy. Lila stepped closer into the center of the room. "All of you are focused on her," she said, pointing at Clara, "because she showed up here looking like Ava Cole." Clara felt her chest tighten at hearing the name again. "But you're ignoring something important," Lila continued. The officer narrowed his eyes. "And what is that?" he asked. Lila looked directly at Ethan. "His reaction," she said. Ethan's jaw tightened. "My reaction?" he repeated. "Yes," Lila said. "From the moment she arrived, you didn't question it. You accepted it." Ethan shook his head. "I was grieving," he said. "I saw someone who reminded me of my daughter." "That's exactly my point," Lila said. The room went quiet. Lila continued. "You didn't just see a resemblance," she said. "You chased it." Clara's breath caught slightly. Ethan stepped forward. "That's ridiculous," he said. But Lila didn't back down. "You brought her into your home immediately," she said. "You gave her access. You surrounded her with Ava's things." Clara remembered the room, the photos, the necklace, the box. Her stomach tightened. "That doesn't prove anything," Ethan said. Lila nodded slowly. "No," she said. "But this does." She turned toward the officer. "You said there was a report," she said. The officer nodded. "Yes." Lila crossed her arms. "Do you know who filed it?" she asked. The officer hesitated. "We're still verifying the source," he said. Lila shook her head. "You don't need to verify it," she said. Clara frowned. "What do you mean?" she asked. Lila turned toward her. "I filed it," she said. The room went completely silent. Clara felt like the air disappeared. "You what?" Clara whispered. Lila nodded. "I filed the missing person report," she said. Ethan stepped forward quickly. "Why would you do that?" he demanded. Lila looked at him calmly. "Because she is missing," she said. Clara shook her head. "I'm right here," she said. Lila turned to her. "For now," she said quietly. The words hit like a punch. The officer looked confused. "I don't understand," he said. Lila took a breath. "Let me explain," she said. She pointed at Clara. "She didn't just end up here by coincidence," she said. Ethan clenched his fists. "Enough," he said. But Lila continued. "She was placed here," she said. Clara's heart pounded. "By who?" the officer asked. Lila looked at Ethan again. "That's the question," she said. Ethan's face hardened. "You're accusing me?" he said. Lila didn't answer immediately. Then she said it. "I'm saying you're not telling the full truth." The room erupted into tension again. The officer raised a hand. "Everyone calm down," he said. He looked at Lila. "You need to explain clearly," he said. Lila nodded. "I've been working here under another identity," she said. Clara frowned. "What do you mean?" she asked. Lila hesitated, then spoke. "My real name is not just Lila," she said. Clara's stomach tightened. Ethan stared at her. "What are you talking about?" he asked. Lila took a breath. "My full identity was changed when I started working here," she said. Silence. The officer narrowed his eyes. "Changed by who?" he asked. Lila looked at Ethan. "By the people managing this estate's internal trust system," she said. Ethan shook his head. That makes no sense, he said. Lila stepped closer. You've been surrounded by people managing your grief, she said. Clara felt confusion rising again. What does that mean? She asked. Lila turned to her. It means, she said slowly, not everything you've experienced here has been natural. The room went still again. Ethan laughed once. A short, sharp sound. So now you're suggesting I'm being controlled? He asked. Lila didn't smile. I'm saying, she replied, that your emotional state has been monitored. Clara's eyes widened slightly. That's impossible, she whispered. Lila looked at her. Is it? She asked. She turned toward the officer. Did you notice how quickly this case escalated? She asked. The officer frowned. What are you implying? Lila gestured around the room. A homeless woman appears, she said. She looks exactly like a dead girl. She is immediately taken into a private estate. Police are called within 24 hours. A missing person report already exists. She paused. Does that sound random to you? Silence. Clara felt her stomach twist. Because when Lila said it like that, it didn't sound random. It sounded planned. The officer looked uneasy. Are you saying this was staged? He asked. Lila didn't answer directly. Instead, she said something worse. I'm saying Clara may not be the only one being used. Ethan stepped forward angrily. That's enough, he said. You are speaking nonsense. But Lila didn't back away. You brought her here, she said. You saw her once and brought her into your life instantly. She paused. Why? Ethan didn't answer immediately. And that silence said too much. Clara noticed it. So did the officer. Lila turned to Clara. Did you ever wonder why he never questioned you deeply? She asked. Clara opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Because she had wondered. Lila stepped closer. Because he already believed what he needed to believe, she said. Ethan's voice dropped. Stop talking, he said. But Lila continued. He needed Ava back, she said. Clara felt a cold wave pass through her chest. And you, Lila said softly, looked like the closest thing to that. Silence. Heavy. Unbearable. Ethan's face tightened. That's not true, he said. But it didn't sound convincing anymore. The officer looked between them. This is becoming very serious, he said. Lila nodded. It already is, she said. Then she looked at Clara and said something that made everything worse. Because the real question isn't why she is here. She paused. It's why someone wanted her to look like Ava in the first place. Clara's breath caught. Ethan went still. The officer frowned. What are you saying? He asked. Lila's voice dropped. I think Ava's death, she said slowly, was not the end of anything. The room fell into absolute silence. And in that silence, Clara realized something terrifying. This wasn't just about identity anymore. It wasn't just about lies. It wasn't even just about Ava. It was about a setup, a system, a plan bigger than any of them understood. And as Ethan slowly turned his head toward Clara, she saw it again. That look. Not grief, not confusion, but fear. Because for the first time, Ethan Cole didn't look like a man in control of his story. He looked like a man who had just realized he might be inside someone else's. No one spoke. Not Ethan. Not Clara. Not Lila. Not even the officers. The silence in the room felt heavy, like it was pressing down on everyone's chest. Then the first officer finally broke it. We need everyone to stay calm, he said firmly. But no one was calm. Ethan slowly stepped back, his eyes moving between Clara and Lila. This is insane, he said quietly. All of it. Lila didn't blink. Then explain it, she said. Ethan opened his mouth, then closed it again. For the first time, Clara saw something in him she hadn't seen before. Confusion. Not confidence. Not control. Just confusion. The second officer looked at Clara. Ma'am, she said gently, we still need you to come with us to answer a few more questions. Clara nodded slowly. I will, she said. But I don't understand what I'm being accused of. The officer hesitated. Right now, he said. We're not sure you're being accused of anything, or if you're a victim. That word hit Clara hard. Victim. Ethan suddenly turned to the officer. She is not a victim, he said quickly. She's someone I brought into my home. Lila cut in immediately. And why did you bring her in so fast? She asked. Ethan's voice rose slightly. Because she looked like my daughter. Clara flinched at the words. Ava. Again. Always Ava. Lila stepped closer. That's exactly what someone wanted, she said quietly. Ethan froze. What? He asked. Lila looked at him directly. You weren't the only one grieving, she said. Someone knew you were vulnerable. Clara's stomach tightened. The room felt colder again. The first officer raised his hand. We are going to pause this conversation, he said. All of you are coming with us for further questioning. But then, a sharp sound came from upstairs. A door slammed. Everyone turned. Footsteps echoed above them. Fast. Running. Ethan looked up sharply. Who's upstairs? He demanded. Margaret's voice came from the hallway behind them. I told you, she said calmly as she appeared at the doorway. You were looking in the wrong direction. Everyone turned toward her. Lila stepped forward. You knew, she said. Margaret didn't deny it. She just looked at Clara, then Ethan, then the officers, and finally said, You've opened something that should have stayed closed. Clara's heart pounded. What is that supposed to mean? She asked. Margaret sighed softly. You all think this is about a girl who died, she said. Ethan frowned. It is, he said firmly. Margaret shook her head. No, she said. It started with her, but it never ended there. The room went silent again. Even the officers looked unsettled now. Margaret stepped inside slowly. You want the truth? She asked. No one answered. So she continued. Ava didn't die alone, she said. Clara felt her chest tighten. Ethan's face darkened. What are you saying? He asked. Margaret looked directly at him. I'm saying, she said slowly, there were decisions made that night, and everyone in this house has been living in the shadow of them ever since. Lila stepped forward. Then say it clearly, she demanded. Margaret finally nodded. I will, she said. She turned slightly toward Ethan. You didn't just lose your daughter, she said. Pause. You inherited a lie. Ethan shook his head. That's not true, he said. But his voice was weaker now. Margaret turned to Clara. And you, she said quietly. Clara froze. Margaret's eyes softened. Just slightly. You were never random, she said. Clara's throat went dry. What does that mean? She whispered. Margaret exhaled slowly. You were selected, she said. Silence. Absolute silence. Even the officers didn't move. Ethan stepped forward. Selected for what? He asked. Margaret looked at him. To be a mirror, she said. Clara frowned. A mirror? She repeated. Margaret nodded. A reflection of what was lost, and what was never resolved. Lila shook her head. This is madness, she said. But Margaret didn't stop. You all think this is about identity, she said. But it's about replacement. Clara felt her stomach twist violently. Replacement? She whispered. Margaret looked at her directly. You were never meant to be Ava, she said. Pause. You were meant to reveal what really happened to her. Ethan stepped back. No, he said. That's not possible. Margaret nodded slowly. Oh, it is, she said. Because the truth was buried so deep that only something like this could bring it up again. Lila's voice shook slightly. So what happened to Ava? She asked. Margaret looked at her, and for the first time her expression softened. She didn't just vanish, she said quietly. She uncovered something she wasn't supposed to see. The room felt like it dropped several degrees. Ethan's voice broke slightly. See what? Margaret hesitated, then said, Control. Silence again. Clara's mind spun. Lila stepped forward slowly. So this was never about her death? She asked. Margaret shook her head. It was about what she found before it, she said. The officers exchanged uneasy glances. One of them spoke. This is getting too complex, he said. We need full statements from everyone. But Clara barely heard him, because everything in her head was shifting, pieces clicking into place. The resemblance, the notebook, the warnings, the sudden arrival, Ethan's obsession with the resemblance, Margaret's cryptic warnings, and Lila's fear. Clara whispered, "Then what am I?" All eyes turned to her again. Margaret stepped closer and said something that made Clara's blood run cold. "You are the last piece of what she started." Silence. Then, a loud crash came from upstairs again. This time louder. Everyone turned toward the sound. Footsteps rushed down the stairs. Fast. Panicked. A young man burst into the room holding a folder. "Sir!" he shouted. Ethan turned. "What is it?" he demanded. The man was breathing hard. "It's the archive files," he said. "What about them?" Lila asked quickly. The man looked at Clara, then Ethan, then said, "The identity records. They were altered." Clara's heart stopped. "What?" she whispered. The man stepped forward. "Her file," he said, pointing at Clara, "was created weeks before she ever arrived." Silence exploded through the room. Ethan stared at Clara. Lila stepped back. The officers went still. Margaret closed her eyes briefly, like she had been waiting for this moment. Clara's voice shook. "No," she whispered. "That's not true." But deep down, something inside her cracked. Because suddenly, the memory of the bus station felt wrong. The timing, the meeting, the way Ethan looked at her, like he had been expecting her, like he already knew. Ethan took a slow step back, and for the first time, he looked at Clara like he was seeing a stranger. Not Ava's reflection, not a coincidence, not a memory, but something else, something created. Clara's voice broke. "Ethan," she whispered, but he didn't answer. Lila looked at her, eyes full of pain, and said quietly, "Clara, I don't think you were ever just found." A long silence followed. Then Margaret spoke one final time. "Now," she said softly, "the truth can finally begin." And as the officers stepped forward to take everyone into custody for a full investigation, Clara realized the most terrifying truth of all. She didn't know who she was anymore. And somewhere in the distance, a file drawer clicked shut, ending one story and starting another.